was very risky. I mean, it was the kind of thing where the description, the thumbnail description of the book sounded awful. This is a book about two 11-year-old girls who killed a baby. No one wants to read that book. But I really believed in it, and I was lucky that I had a publisher and an editor who really believed in me and said, we trust you. We trust that you're not writing something that's gratuitously violent or, you know, that is trying to traffic in sensational detail, but that you're going for something different, and we're fine with you doing it.
And you've gone on and written, what, two more out-of-series books?
Two more out-of-series books. There's some characters who recur, but if they've been in one book, they never have a major part in the next book. You know, some characters come to the fore on the police side of things. So yeah, there have been 3 standalones altogether. And
the one that you wrote last year, I heard you say earlier today when you and I were talking that you think it has been your most successful commercially and critically.
Yeah, just sort of without a doubt. Without a doubt. I mean, commercially it's inarguable. I believe that my sales quadrupled or quintupled with that book. It was the first book. Oh, What the Dead Know. I thought you were saying you.
No, sorry. It's the bookseller and they. No.
What the Dead Know. It hit the New York Times bestseller list, and it received really good reviews. I mean, reviews that were very gratifying. I told you before we started, for the most part, I try not to read reviews. I try not to read about myself. It started off with I didn't want to read the bad stuff. And then even the good stuff makes me kind of self-conscious in a way that, and I'm almost always working. The book comes out, I'm on the next book. I'm trying to write another book, and I'm trying to immerse myself in that world. So dwelling on people's thoughts, even positive ones, about last year's book is not that helpful to me. As happy as I am to have people say nice things, I can't think about it too much. I have to move on, and so I try not to dwell on it. But there were the kind of reviews you wait your whole life as a writer to get, basically, which is people asserted that, you know, I was a serious writer in the genre and that what I did well, and I had been waiting for that kind of affirmation.
Well, I was in Anchorage, Alaska at BoucherCon, the International Mystery Convention, when you won the Anthony Award for it, and I thought you gave a very good, you know, acceptance speech. But what interested me was that you were so surprised.
Yeah, I was. I'm always surprised. I'm always surprised when anything goes right, pretty much. I think part of that's a coping mechanism. Part of it, I think it's very much in line with the way writers are. I think of the worst case scenario so that I'll be ready for it. So I don't expect to win prizes. I don't expect to get good reviews. I don't expect anyone to be there when I go to a book signing. I don't. I got out of the car the other night in Seattle, and I said, I think this is the night where no one shows up. It's just, you know, this is just what I do. And it's a long answer to say I'm a very neurotic person in my own way.
Well, I don't know. You know, it's interesting you'd say it was a coping mechanism. I guess the real question then would be, what is the real payoff for you? Is it just the work itself? I mean, because a lot of people do get off on the celebrity part of doing work, and some people, you know, do it for the money, and some people do it for whatever, you know, but in your case, what is it that is really, you know, the big payoff for you?
The autonomy. I'm in charge. I've worked for a lot of different people. I worked for 20 years in journalism. And in journalism, the writer is somewhat devalued in that you don't own what you write. It's copyrighted to the newspaper. You know, you have no, I couldn't put out a book of things I wrote for the Baltimore Sun without permission from the Tribune Corporation, which owns the Baltimore Sun. And when something happens, an editor is likely to stand up and say, I need a body. This is literally what they say. I need a body. Who's available? Who? You know, Lippman, go. And the sense is that you're interchangeable, and some people might be better writers or better reporters, but in the end, you're all supposed to be able to do each other's jobs, and nobody's special. And they own you. As a novelist, I still work for an editor. She still gives me guidance, but we're more partners. I'm more of an individual contractor, and no one else is going to write a Tess Monahan novel. No one else can write my novels. And I really am very aware that I'm in charge, of making it good. You know, that it's up to me to get the best work out of me that I can. And my editor's great. I've worked with the same editor for my entire career. Yeah, I'm a bit of, I think part of the reason I mentioned to you that I'm changing publishers in England is that for me, this is shocking.
Right.
I've had the same agent, the same editor. I've been at Orion in England for my entire career there. Hayakawa in Japan has, but I've stayed, for the most part, I've stayed with whoever wants me. You know, there have been foreign houses that have tried one and dropped me or done this and that, but if they want me, I'm there. So I've never had to have a big change before. Yet I like being in charge. I like being in control. I like being the boss of the book, and ultimately I'm the boss of the book.
Well, maybe that's why you need the coping mechanism to kind of, you know, stay. But it ties back to something that you've said before about when you were at Northwestern. We're both been to graduate school at Northwestern, or at least undergraduate school at Northwestern, that you liked the university, but you didn't like the journalism school. Or you know, it wasn't Medill per se, but I think what you meant was you didn't really like in school learning about journalism. You didn't hate that particular one.
Journalism is not really appropriate to be taught in school. I think there's a particular education that a journalist needs.
Okay.
And Northwestern did provide some of that because it was a fairly rigorous academic program that required that you take a lot of courses outside of journalism. That part was great. You know, being required to take English, history, math, and science. At the time you were required to take political science. I think they're now required to take economics as well. And then you had to pick a social science major and a different sort of like mini major where you would take that many more courses in that subject. That was all well and good. And you can learn the legal history of journalism. That all stayed with me. I'm actually remarkably good on legal precedents in press law. You can learn something about the history of mass communications. You really can't learn to be a reporter sitting in a classroom, no matter how they try to fake it or make it feel like the real thing.
And yet, you've also said, or you said to me earlier today, and I was really thinking about that for you, you know, you finish a book and you maybe are exhausted, particularly if it's one of your standalones, because it's been draining emotionally, and they're often darker. In fact, they are all three darker than your test books. And so, you know, it's almost a relaxation maybe to do something of a different. But you don't take the, I'll just take 6 months off and recover option. You take the, I think I'll heal myself by writing another book option. Does that relate to the fact that you trained as a professional writer?
Partly, I think. I take writing seriously as a craft and a job. One hopes there's art in it, but that's sort of outside of you. You know, that feels like something I don't have any control over it. I feel better when I'm working. You know, I take time off, I take vacations, and I enjoy them very much. But I just have some, it was late in life, by the way. You know, my work ethic in journalism was, they paid me to work 40 hours a week, and I wanted to give them 40 great hours a week. And, you know, I felt like that's a fair exchange, but I didn't feel ownership of what I did. So it was rare that I wanted to work for free. You know, that I wanted to just donate some of my time to the Baltimore Sun. If I worked more than 40 hours, I wanted overtime for it. And, you know, with a book, someone says, okay, here's the amount of money we're going to pay you to write the book, and it's sort of up to you. You can work on it as little as you like or as much as you like, but you have ownership of it. And so I just feel, you know, almost everybody in this country gets up and goes to work every day. So I don't see why I shouldn't too. I don't see why being a novelist would be an opportunity not to have a job.
Well, I don't disagree with you. Actually, of all the writers I know who worked at journalism before they became novelists, they all really share your work ethic. You know, Dan Fesperman, Michael Connelly, Jonathan King. You know, if I think part of it is that if you've had to work if you've had to produce writing on demand,
yes,
every day for, you know, 40 hours a week, whatever it might be, you're not really afraid to write.